December 13th, 1996, the controversial rapper Tupac Shakur, shot down by assailants who remain unidentified, died in a Las Vegas hospital at the age of 25. Controversy surrounding Tupac's life and his work, however, has lived on. So we called in rapper Treach of Naughty by Nature, a close friend of Tupac since their days as roadies, Treach with Queen Latifah, Tupac with Digital Underground, to hash over the events of the past year.
His suffering and his pain is the same suffering and pain we going through.
I wish I had a chance to actually meet Tupac. His music meant a lot for our people.
In the years since the death of Tupac Shakur, the emotions his murder stirred up have quieted. But the debate over his legacy, who he was and who he might have become, has begun to rage. Was he a gangster who kept it real all the way to an early grave? A James Dean-style cultural rebel? Or was he, might he have become, a political voice for the dispossessed, in the tradition of Malcolm X? Only now are those questions starting to emerge. After a year in which, at least in the minds of many fans, Tupac was still very much alive.
Look, y'all can watch. I feel so confident and so sure about the man that I am that you can watch me. You can watch me when I fall, when I cry, when I get shot, when I go to jail, when I die. You can watch it.
Maybe it was because everyone did watch, and because Tupac had spoken about death so frequently, that his murder seemed somehow both expected and unreal. Just another chapter in his dramatic autobiography. 4 days after he died, Tupac's label, Death Row Records, released I Ain't Mad at You. That set the tone for a year in which release after release of Tupac's records, films, and videos showed Tupac in violent, even deadly situations, but never dealt with the reality of his brutal death. Rumors that he was still alive burgeoned in November, once fans got their hands on the cryptic notations inside the posthumously released Machiavelli album. Some even suggested that Tupac had taken the real Machiavelli's advice and faked his own death.
Right now, it's like he's the Black Elvis. You know what I mean? Yo, I've seen Pop. He out there. He's somewhere.
I mean, you have an album with Machiavelli, at the heart of it, and Machiavelli, faking your own death, and people ascribe, rightfully so, tremendous intelligence to Tupac. But I think what they're trying to do is avoid the fact that if you deal with bullets and guns and you get brutal, you die.
People in general who feel that gangster rap is dead. My album is going to show you that gangster rap is not dead, because I plan to keep it alive.
1 year ago, Death Row Records had a sound and a reputation unlike any contemporary record company. And Tupac was the label's newest and brightest star, willingly molded into the very epitome of the gangster rapper. Without him, Snoop was again thrust to the forefront, but his long-awaited second album failed to make an impression, especially when released just a week after the hyper-vitriolic Machiavelli. Meanwhile, the night that was the beginning of the end for Tupac may also have marked the beginning of the end for Death Row. Label head Suge Knight was sent to prison for a probation violation, thanks to a videotaped altercation just hours before the shooting. Federal investigators continued to probe Death Row's alleged gang ties and its illegitimate business practices, while the company's mighty stable of rappers was suddenly dwindling, turning what was once America's most profitable independent label into the music industry's most chaotic and unstable commodity in just 12 months.
If I die or whatever, it can happen. If anything would have happened to me, it's about 3 albums ready. And I like that.
When you think the end could be near, you won't want the people, you won't want the world to know everything that you got inside. That's why he stayed in the studio. He stayed making something new, because he had so much in a little time to tell.
Tupac left behind over 170 tracks and several hundred unpublished poems. But someone needs to cultivate that raw material into a legacy. With potentially lucrative tracks and substantial revenues yet to be earned from his image, there's been tremendous legal wrangling over his estate. Just 6 weeks after his death, Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, filed suit against Death Row Records to stop it from selling unlicensed Tupac merchandise. She would later file another suit against the label, charging that it was withholding millions in royalties from the Shakur estate. Death Row responded that Tupac actually owed the label money to repay cash advances it claimed he'd spent on cars and jewelry. Suddenly, it seemed as if everyone wanted a piece of Tupac, from his natural father, who had abandoned the family when he was 4 and now wanted half of his son's estate, to his chief cultural critic, C. Dolores Tucker, who claimed that just one reference to her in one of Tupac's songs was worth $10 million in damages.
As one of the rappers who didn't said the freaks come out at night, and in the midst of the dark night of his soul, many people have come forth to claim this legacy who honestly just don't deserve it.
Essentially, we have 2 to 4 black males who are inside the vehicle, and we have no further description.
The Las Vegas police investigation into Tupac's murder never got much further. In March, MTV News reported that Shakur's murder had touched off a gang war in Compton, California. And a Compton police informant had heard that Orlando Anderson, the same man who was beaten by Knight and Shakur at the MGM Grand, was the trigger man in the Shakur killing. The day after our report aired, Anderson spoke briefly to CNN.
I just want to let everybody know, I didn't do it.
Las Vegas police did briefly consider Anderson a suspect, but have since all but closed down their investigation, saying officially that they think they know who killed Tupac, but don't expect to get enough evidence to ever make an arrest.
Look, they could kill somebody else, they find a person the next day. You got 2 of the biggest hip-hoppers out there, don't nobody know nothing.
The March murder of the notorious B.I.G. was instantly and unavoidably compared with Tupac's murder 6 months earlier. Both were drive-by shootings after high-profile events, and both left police with few leads. Where Tupac's death sparked little public sentiment from his label mates, Biggie's friends rushed to memorialize their man in a public way.
I'd like to say I wish we never had to make this record, and I wish we never had to make this video, but that's our reality. And B.I.G. will never forget you.
That's how you're supposed to put it down. Your homie go, you're supposed to put it down for him. Keep his name on the street. No doubt.
Sadly, it took a full year for the first major dedication to Tupac to hit the airwaves.
It's like the purpose behind this record, I really didn't see him sent off, you know what I mean, just right, the way I thought, you know what I mean?
Besides paying tribute, Treach and the other keepers of Tupac's flame hope that Tupac will be remembered as a communicator and not just an instigator.
People got to listen to Pac. There's so much that he said and was saying that touched and like really hit emotions that a lot of us go through every day, no matter what you're doing. No matter what you're doing. Either you thought about it and ain't know how to say it, but when you hear it from him, you like, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that.
You can catch Naughty by Nature's Mourn You Till I Join You video on Yo, Thursdays at 10 p.m.